What can a team leader or broker owner tighten in 15 minutes? That's the question I want to spend some time on today because a lot of leaders are already doing real volume, already carrying real responsibility, and still ending the week feeling like too much of the business is harder to run than it should be. The answer usually isn't a total rebuild. More often, it's one part of the business that needs to get cleaner. One decision, one system, one standard, something small enough to handle today and important enough to change the feel of the week once it's done. I like this topic because leaders tend to postpone the highest leverage fixes. They're busy, the business is moving, nothing is fully broken. So the friction gets tolerated longer than it should. Then 6 months go by and the same pressure point is still there, quietly eating time, margin, or attention. That's what this video is about. 5 places where a team leader or broker owner can tighten the business in 15 minutes and feel the difference faster than they expect. And before we get into it, if this channel helps you think more clearly about building a stronger real estate business, like, comment, and subscribe. We make these for people who are running teams, leading agents, and trying to create a business that scales without getting heavier every quarter. First, find the one part of your structure that no longer fits your size. This is a leadership exercise more than a systems exercise. The business grows, the team changes, the volume changes, and every once in a while, there's a piece of the structure that stayed frozen while everything around it kept moving. Maybe it's the way decisions get made. Maybe it's who approves what. Maybe it's the way the leader still sits in the middle of things that should have been handed off a year ago. 15 minutes is enough to spot that friction if you ask the right question. Where is the business still leaning on me in a way that no longer makes sense for the size of this operation? That's the whole exercise. Name the one place where your structure is still built for the business you used to have, not the business you have now. Sometimes that's the handoff from admin to agent. Sometimes it's how a team lead still touches every file. Sometimes it's how recruiting, onboarding, or review still waits on one person. Once you name it clearly, you stop treating it like background noise. The reason I'd start there is simple. A lot of owners try to solve surface level problems while the structure underneath them is still off. That usually means the same frustration comes back in a different outfit a week later. If the real issue is structural, the cleanest move is to identify it early, tighten it, and let the rest of the business catch up. Second, clean up one scattered workflow. This one gets a lot of leaders because nobody sets out to build a scattered workflow. It happens gradually. One tool gets added because the team needs it. One workaround gets added because there wasn't a cleaner answer at the time. Then a few months later, information is spread across too many places, and the team is burning energy trying to stay oriented. A 15-minute fix here looks like picking one workflow that still feels messy and deciding where it lives from now on. New listing launch, recruiting follow-up, open house follow-up, team onboarding, weekly reporting, choose one, then make one decision that removes confusion. Where does it start? Where does it live? Who owns it? What is the next step after it starts? Most teams do not need more software at that point. They need fewer loose ends. This is one place where the real setup in 2026 is worth paying attention to because the businesses running well have started treating workflow as an operating advantage. Real Edge Network also leans into that with templates, AI tools, working sessions, and support designed to help agents stop rebuilding the same things from scratch. When a team has a cleaner way to run repeated work, the leader gets less trapped in translation and cleanup. The win is not that the workflow looks prettier. The win is that the team can move through it with less hesitation. That changes response time, handoff quality, and how often the leader has to step in and explain what should already be clear. Third, improve one back-end client experience step. Clients do not usually see the back-end mechanics of a business, but they feel them every time something is slow, confusing, or disorganized. Most owners know this already. The issue is that the back-end pieces get less attention because they do not have the same visible payoff as a closing post or a recruiting conversation. 15 minutes is enough to improve one step your clients feel all the time. Pick one. Maybe it's how quickly a new client gets welcome information. Maybe it's how listing prep gets communicated. Maybe it's the way documents get introduced so people know what they're signing and why. Maybe it's the follow-up after a consultation or an open house. The point is to make one step cleaner, smoother, and easier to experience from the client side. This is where better operations quietly raise service. When the handoff is cleaner, the client feels more confidence. When the communication is more consistent, the client feels more trust. When a team has a repeatable back-end step for the part nobody celebrates online, the business starts feeling more polished without anyone needing to force it. And this is also a good place to borrow from the way strong support systems are built. Buyer guides, listing kits, templates, and ready-made resources help because they remove inconsistency from moments that should feel steady. That's part of the value in having the business supported by tools and repeatable assets instead of asking every agent to improvise the same client touchpoint in their own way every time. Fourth, tighten one standard in the business. This one is easy to avoid because standards sound heavier than they are. In practice, tightening a standard usually means clarifying one expectation that has gotten too fuzzy. The strongest teams and brokerages are not easier to run because the leader works harder. They are easier to run because people know what good looks like. In 15 minutes, you can tighten one standard that has been drifting: new lead response time, showing follow-up, listing launch timeline, meeting prep, CRM hygiene, open house setup, internal communication. Pick one area where everybody has a slightly different version of what done well means and clean it up. Write the expectation in one sentence. Then make sure the sentence is strong enough that another person could follow it without needing your interpretation every time. Standards do a lot of hidden work inside a business. They reduce decision fatigue. They lower friction between people. They protect quality. They also make leadership easier because the team is no longer guessing what the owner had in mind. That's one reason stronger organizations tend to feel calmer. A tighter standard removes noise before it has a chance to turn into correction later. Fifth, turn one repeated question into an AI-supported system. This is probably the most relevant move for how businesses are scaling now. Most leaders still answer the same categories of questions over and over again: process questions, commission questions, listing prep questions, recruiting questions, onboarding questions. Most of those do not need fresh brain power every single time. They need a reliable first answer and a clean place to start. 15 minutes is enough to choose one repeated question and build the first version of a system around it. That could be a saved response, an internal FAQ, a short training note, a checklist, a team SOP, or a prompt your team uses with AI to generate the first draft of the answer. The goal is not to remove judgment. The goal is to stop wasting judgment on questions that repeat every week. This is where Real Edge Network can be genuinely useful for leaders because the support side includes AI tools, templates, and working session style coaching that help people turn repeated work into reusable assets. That's the right way to think about AI inside a real estate business. AI should shorten the path to a useful first draft, speed up repeated explanations, and reduce the amount of low-level operational friction that keeps leaders stuck, answering the same thing all month. Once one repeated question becomes a system, two things happen. The team moves faster, and the leader gets some attention back. That is the bigger win. AI does not replace leadership. It gives leadership a chance to focus on the conversations where nuance, coaching, trust, and judgment still belong. So if I step back from all five of these, here's what I think leaders should hear. You do not need a full reset to improve the business this week. You need one clean move in the part of the business that keeps dragging on your time or your attention. That could be structure, it could be workflow, it could be a client experience step, it could be a standard that needs to be written more clearly, it could be one repeated question that should have become a system months ago. The reason small fixes work so well for leaders is that they compound. A stronger structure changes decisions downstream. A cleaner workflow reduces future confusion. A better client experience step improves consistency. A tighter standard reduces correction later. An AI-supported answer prevents the same question from pulling the leader back in again and again. None of those moves needs a retreat, a rebrand, or a giant initiative. They need 15 focused minutes and a willingness to tighten what has gotten loose. If this was helpful, put the one point that you tighten first in the comments. Structure, workflow, client experience, standards, or AI. And if you want to talk through how you'd apply that to your team or brokerage, have a conversation with us. We'll keep making content for leaders who want the business to run with more clarity, more leverage, and a lot less friction in the background.